Today we're going to be replacing the left rear window regulator in a 2007 Honda Pilot.
Seriously, I just had it.
Yesterday was one of the first nice days that we've had here in quite some time, and when we went to roll down the windows in the Pilot, the driver's side rear window came down about halfway, made some funky noises, and then would not go up or down any further, and you could move it up and down the track, and eventually it just sank the whole way down into the door. That to me says that the window regulator needs to be replaced, and so that's what we're going to be doing today, is replacing that assembly in the back door. Let's get started. The tools that you'll need for this project are a hook and pick set, a pry tool to get the plastic keepers out of the door card, a Phillips head screwdriver, and a 10mm ratchet. The first thing we'll want to do is remove the door card. So in order to do that, you'll just take a pick, pull the door handle back, and then reaching up on the top side and very carefully reaching in with a pick, just pry down gently and pop this piece of plastic loose. This will give you access to the two screws that hold the door card in there, and there should be one more under here. So just gently pull up on the cup holder assembly and remove the plug from the window switch, and that will give you access to this Phillips head screw right here. Once you get those three removed, you'll be able to just pull the door latch mechanism out, and then there's a plastic keeper tab on the linkage that drops down in. You should be able to use a screwdriver and just push that forward and rotate it off to the side and then lift the linkage out of the latch. Just so you can have a better look at it, the linkage drops down into this hole here, and then this little retaining clip just goes over top of the linkage, and you could just push it and rotate it this way and then lift the linkage out of the latch assembly. The last screw that you'll need to remove is actually right down under here in this hole. So you just put your screwdriver in there and take that guy out, and that should be the last screw holding this door card on. I'm pretty confident we have all the screws out at this point, so I'm just going to reach down on the bottom on the door card, and I'm going to pull out and away. There will be plastic retaining clips the whole way around, probably a couple in the middle. You pull that out away from the door, and then you'll lift the door card up and over top of your door lock. And there you have it. Because my window is fully down, I'm going to want to pull this plastic off, get a better look at what we're dealing with, and I'm probably going to have to bring the window back up to gain access to everything back in there, and I'm probably going to hold it up with just by jamming a piece of cardboard or something down in there to hold the window in the up position. I've removed this piece of plastic up on the top so that I can reach down and grab the base of my window and just pull it up. Looks like I can only get it up about 3/4 of the way. So I'm going to take a little piece of cardboard here, and I'm just going to jam it into the dew strip on the outside of the window. And hopefully that'll have enough pressure to hold the window up, which it does. Cool. As we dive a bit deeper into this project, there are two holes here and here, which is where you will gain access to where the window mounts on the track, which goes from here to here. And so I need to lower the window down in order to gain access to the two 10mm bolts that hold the window to the assembly. And at that point, I'll be able to move the window the whole way up and then secure it again with just that little piece of cardboard to tuck it in there. The window motor itself is over here, and it's connected via cables which come up to the top and bottom. And then this track has a guide on it that moves up and down to raise and lower the window. At this point, I've moved the window back down, so I have access to the two 10mm bolts that hold the window to the regulator and motor assembly. And now I'm going to take these two out, push the window back up to keep it out of harm's way, and just re-secure it using the little piece of cardboard. With the window up and out of the way, there are 7 bolts that you need to remove. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm going to start by removing all the silver ones, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I'll loosen the last 3 because I'll be able to slide the motor assembly and the track up and out through these larger holes once the other bolts are out of the way. Bolts are out, everything's ready to come out. The last thing we need to do is remove this little keeper tab and disconnect the wiring here so that we can push it through this hole here. There's also a little plastic tab on the back side of the connector here too. We should be ready to remove everything. Now we're just going to take this hook, come under the underside here, and pull this little plastic keeper tab off so that I can push this wire in through this hole. The last thing we need to do in order to remove this guy is this little plastic retaining clip here has two plastic tabs that you'll need to squeeze together and just push through the door because it holds the cable assembly that goes from the motor to the top of the track. Now that that's done, I'm just going to lift up the track and push it through, and lift up the motor and reach in and grab it, and the whole assembly should slide out of the door. And it'll look like that. That's definitely broken. Here I have both assemblies side by side just so I can show you what went wrong. On the old one, it's cable driven and it has this little metal end on the cable that fits into the window assembly here, and this little piece of plastic broke and that little piece of metal came out. Obviously you can't put up the window whenever the cable's not attached to the track. So I'm going to replace it with a brand spanking new one. Let's get this guy installed. Reinstallation is obviously going to be the opposite of how you took it out. So I'm just going to tuck things down in here. And holding onto the motor. I'll just bring it over. And slide those into place. Next, I'm going to take the wire and put it through the hole. Then, using a bolt from the old track, I'm just going to install that, not the whole way down, into the track so that I can lift it up, line it up with this hole, and then slide it into place. Now I can take my remaining 3 bolts and install them here, here, and here to get the track secured into place and tighten those guys down. The last bolt we need to put in is obviously for the motor, which will go right here. And we'll tighten those guys down as well and then reconnect our electrical. Now that I have the window regulator assembly and the track and everything in and tightened down and the motor hooked up, the mount where my window sits isn't lined up with the 2 access holes that I need to mount the window to the track assembly. So I'm going to take the switch and reconnect it here, turn the ignition on, and then roll the window up until it's right there and I have access to those holes. Now the mount's where I want it. I'm going to disconnect the switch. Then I'm going to gently remove the cardboard and let the window come down and rest on the track. There are 2 tabs on the back side that the assembly will rest on so that it won't come the whole way down. And then just put in your 2 10mm bolts and the installation is pretty much complete. And then it's just putting the door card back on. Now, before I get too excited, if history has taught me anything, it's that you want to test the window assembly, make sure it goes up and down properly the whole way before you button everything back up. That way, if something's wrong or it's off the track or something's goofy in there, you won't be having to remove the door card again. You just test it while the door card's off and make sure everything's functioning properly. In order to test this, you will need to hook up the window switch. And the window goes up and down. Perfect. A lot of times, whenever you're putting this plastic back up, you can reuse the goop that's on there, the glue, so to speak, in order to get this back on there. If you have troubles, you can just use tape to tape it up if you have any loose ends or if it got torn or something along the way. You'll also want to make sure that your door lock mechanism is facing up and through the plastic, and that your linkage is also through this slit in the plastic here. To put the door card on, you'll have 8 points where little plastic tabs go in. You want to make sure that it comes in through the top and that this is situated through the little hole in the door card, and then push it down, line up the 8 plastic tabs, and then push it in until it clicks. Once you get things lined up, you want to make sure that your electrical connector isn't pinched behind the door somewhere. Line up all your holes, and it just clicks into place. Next up, we're going to do the door latch. This linkage, which faces down, will need to go into this hole, and then this little plastic tab will need to rotate and click on to the upper side of the linkage. You're probably going to need a screwdriver or something, or a hooked pick, in order to reach in back behind this and rotate it around to click it in. Just as a quick heads up, this is probably one of the more frustrating parts of the process, trying to get this lined up and sunk back down in there. I'm going to take a little hook and just pull out and towards me and line this guy up and get it down in there. Wiggle it till it's in the whole way, and then using my hook, I'm going to reach around the back and just rotate the plastic keeper until it clicks into place. Next, I'm going to put the 4 screws back in, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 underneath the door handle here, and tighten those down. Next, we're going to reconnect the window switch and get it reinstalled. It has mounting points, 4 on the upper side on either side of the switch, 1 right here, which goes into this little channel, and 1 on the bottom of the cup holder, which fits down into a slot in the bottom. Last but not least, we're going to put our little piece of trim back in. It just pops in, and we're all done. That's how you do it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you got something out of the video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one.